This is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield from the Lynn Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Michael provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm Mike Mansfield. Hey, first and foremost, if you're watching this, happy Thanksgiving. It is Wednesday, the 26th. It's bright and early here at the Lynn Group. But happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. I hope everyone travels safe and has a great couple days in the long weekend with their family and loved ones. But in any case, kind of down to business, man. It's an exciting week in economic news. It was kind of funny. Last week I put out a video. I put it out on a Wednesday. Talking about earnings, talking about the Feds, talking about how the probability of a rate cut was going down and how that was putting some anxiety on the market, being positive. And then as soon as I post that video, of course, 10 seconds later, a labor report from September, like good golly, we're running stale on our data here, comes out. It's stronger than expected. The market gets super pouty. But man, since then, it's been a very, very busy week. So let's kind of get down to business here. So let's look at the old S&P 500 here. This is the annual chart. Let me go into a kind of a tighter range so we can look at this more. So market's been obviously going up a lot this year, right? We talked about that quite a bit. Liberation Day was a little rough, and then the market was just kind of on this tear for about 6 months from April through October. October hits. We have this big down day right here, October 9th. That's when the president tweeted out that China is a bunch of meanie pants and they're going to raise tariffs. And then that kind of got just kidding. We see that the market, for the most part, has been kind of flat in that same time period. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. But recently, it's been going down. And the reason it was going down was as we watched the probabilities, as we watched some of the stale economic data coming out, the argument was that rate cuts are probably not going to happen in December. And us Americans, we love our cheap money. We love our cheap money. We want our mortgages cheaper. We want our car loans cheaper. We want everything cheaper. I think that's very justified. The fear and the anxiety, though, is cheap money can also inherently mean more inflation, because the cheaper money is to borrow, the quicker people borrow it. You speed up the velocity of money. Competition increases, supply and demand, Econ 101, and boom, you have inflation. And if you're looking at this chart on the screen, you see since Friday, the market's basically gone straight up. So what happened? Well, number one, a couple things. John Williams saved the day. Boom, right? We're so addicted to this idea of the Federal Reserve. We're not focused on earnings. We're not focused on administrative policy. We're focused on the Federal Reserve. And so the anticipated idea that the Feds were going to cut was very low. And all of a sudden, John Williams comes out. He's one of the Fed board members. And he says, I think there's room for cuts in the near term. And Friday's like, what? Give me some cheap money. And the market goes up. Fast forward to yesterday. The probability increased that the president is going to pick Kevin Hassett as the new Federal Reserve Chair to replace Jerome Powell. Why does the market like that? Why did the market go up instantly yesterday when that news came out? And it's because he's a Trump hawk. He's about cutting rates. He's about quantitative easing. He's about these things that are pro-Trump agenda, and the market was in the mood for that, right? And so the market's been on a tear. What's fascinating about this, though, is if we go to the probabilities. Remember, I showed you guys this last week, and this big blue bar on the left side. This is the probability on December 10th that the Feds are going to cut a quarter point. So when I showed it to you, it was around 40% probability. Look, in a week, it's up to 83%. The probabilities have massively increased based on this rhetoric coming out. Also based on a little bit of economic data that reference the consumer is a little tired, consumer confidence is down. All of those things lead to the Feds cutting, because the Feds, remember, they're trying to kind of keep the boat steering in the right direction. It's hard to see here on this lower line here, but as much as this is now at 83%, but a week ago is at 30%. A month ago is almost 100%. So the the temperamentalness of the Fed rate cut is really governing the market. I mean, you watch these probabilities and then you go back and you line up those probabilities with where the market is at, and you see the market is practically trading off of the hopes and dreams of what the Fed's going to do for all of us. Cheap, cheap money. That's all we care about. So pretty fascinating. Let's see, here's the headline. Kevin Hassett, might become the next Fed chair. I think President Powell has, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 more months to go. And then, the president then picks a new chair member. So that's pretty straightforward. But to that theme, market's obviously in a good mood. The S&P is back to 6,800. Kind of goes back to our base case that I've touched on quite a bit here in videos. And that is, we would hope for some kind of year-end rally. We would hope to see the S&P get to about 7,000, by the end of the year here, which is in 5 weeks. Hopefully the Santa Claus rally comes in, right? That would be exciting. Unemotionally, as we get into next year, when you look at earnings projections, you look at Fed policy, because remember, one of those other subtle Fed policies, this has nothing to do with the new people. This has to do with President Powell. He's already committed that starting in December is quantitative easing. That's where the government turns on the money printers. Remember, we love cheap money. Is it good for the economy? We're going to find out. It didn't work really well because we ended up with hyperinflation last time they did this associated with the COVID money printing issues. But we'll see what happens. Earnings, though, are holding up. Look at this. FactSet is like the main, we'll say, aggregator of earnings data. So this came out just a few days ago. But look at this. Earnings on the S&P, they're the highest growth revenue we've seen in 3 years since 2022. That's great news. Remember, earnings, what are earnings? Earnings are the bottom line or revenue. This is the money coming into a company based on people spending money. If people are spending money, this happens. The other component is that we're starting to look at in the new year is how much deregulation will affect the bottom line of these revenues. Will it increase the net revenue and make these companies more successful? So like here's a 3-year chart. You see that on the left side, earnings were pretty robust, 10, 12% back in 2022. They cratered in 2023. They've been trying to rally, but we're just coming in at almost 8.5% this quarter revenue, versus previous quarters being in the 4 to 5% range. So this is great news from an earnings standpoint. Remember, earnings don't directly make the stock market go up, but they definitely help justify and stabilize where the market is at. Remember, if the S&P is at 6,800, we need revenues increasing. We need revenues growing. We need revenues stable to justify the market being this place. If we're watching the S&P 500 going up, yet revenues are falling, then something is not working well, right? And something's going to break somewhere very quickly. And so, it's very positive to see that earnings are coming in stable. The projections for earnings into next year are still projected high. That's what this chart is, kind of shows, from previous time periods, are projected high, which is great. We need earnings to be stable to support the market, support market increases. You add in deregulation, you add in the Federal Reserve doing quantitative easing, tossing in a couple rate cuts and all those fun things, and bada bing, bada boom, you wake up in a year from now and you're not shocked that the S&P is, 7,700 or 8,000 or something, interesting like that. So it's kind of all we got for the moment, everybody. Obviously, going into this weekend, as much as we eat our turkey and take our naps and eat our pie and whatnot, we're looking at next week. The conversation in the video is going to be about how did Black Friday and Cyber Monday go, right? Those are the two giant bellwethers of how the spending, the revenue, the consumer health, all of those things are going to start governing how the market performs in December. If we have a strong Black Friday, we have a strong Cyber Monday. Historically, we generally have a strong December from a performance standpoint. So those are the things we'll be looking at. Certainly the things that we'll be circling back with everybody on. Take that off. And so other than that, that was all I got for today. I hope everybody, like I said, has a great holiday. If you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to us. Go to thelindgroup.com, give us a phone call. We're always here to help. So everybody,